So small groups this week, that's right. Before you get to the ladies and the men's things, we have small groups Wednesday nights and Thursday nights. The ladies, 18 ladies came, and they had a great time in their study. And so that's on Wednesday nights at 6:15. The guys are Thursday nights at 6:30. We changed the time. So the guys are Thursday night. We had a great time Thursday night. And so that's our small groups. Also, there's a couple of events that I really promote here. And one's for ladies, one's for guys. Have you ever noticed that men and women are different? Anybody? Just a question. Just in case you didn't know. I'm here to tell you things. That's why I'm called. Never mind. Anyway, so the ladies is called, there's these events that many of us have been on now. One's called Reflect and one's called The Road. Reflect is for ladies and The Road's for guys. When I went on mine was like 8-9 years ago, I went on one. It was called Quest. And since then, several groups have started. It's all based on a paradigm of bringing us to Christ and dealing with things that hold us back and developing a strong relationship with Him. I encourage everybody to go on these. Now, I think the ladies one that's in May only has like 2 spots left, and I think you might have competition from the first service if you really want to go, because I've been told by a couple of people that want to go. But the guys, I think there's like 6 slots left. And that's in April. And if you want to go, I strongly encourage it. We have a couple of guys from the church going now. And in fact, I see a bunch of us that have gone on it just sitting here. So there is several of us, and I can see some of them that are even signed up for this next one. So if you want to go, I really, really encourage it. And I think that's my only other announcement. That's it. Except one thing. I never really talk about controversial things up here. I like to always preach the Word, and only the Word, and that's what I stick to. But this one actually deals with the Word a little bit. It's also something that's kind of close to my heart, so I'm only going to deal with this for a little tiny bit. But anybody know the movie that came out that's really, really cool, that I really like? I'm going to just deal with it real quick. The Shack. Okay? I'm going to deal with this controversy just a little tiny bit. Because The Shack is a book that was written, I don't know how many years ago. I read it for the first time about 6-7 years ago. And it's a beautiful, beautiful story. And I do recommend people. However, there's another book that came out on its heels in rebuttal to it called Burning Down the Shack. And the reason why they came out, the 2 authors are friends. They were actually part of a Christian think tank out of Western Theological Seminary. And this think tank would think through theological doctrine and why we believe what we believe. It's actually a really cool thing. Except for the author of the book kind of started going one direction, and the other author didn't like it at all. And there's some good reason for it if what the other author really believed he did. But then a friend of both of them says, no, that's not what he says and whatnot. So I'm just going to preface it with this. I believe in God the Father. I believe in God the Son, Jesus Christ. I believe in the Holy Spirit, 3 in 1. I believe that Jesus was born of a virgin. There's only one way to heaven. His name is Jesus Christ. He is the door. I believe that he was born of a virgin, died on the cross, rose on the 3rd day, and by his blood I am saved. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. Can somebody say amen? Amen. These are the hardcore truths we believe in. I believe that no one comes to the Father except through Jesus Christ. Now here's the doctrine. And if you really look for it, you'll find it. We don't believe in universalism in this church. We don't believe that all roads go to heaven. We just don't. We believe that Jesus is the door. That's why I just quoted you the creeds. My pastor taught me this. Eat the hay, spit out the sticks. Some people, they look so hard for sticks, they forget about the hay. I'm not one of those people. The hay in the movie is phenomenal. Go see it. Okay? That's all I'm saying. And so, you go see it, it takes you through a process. And this is the author's intent. I've read a lot of articles on the author and the debate, the whole 9 yards. But the author's intent is that we see our need for Christ and that we see our need for His healing and what that process is. And it's beautiful. So, there's my take. With all that said, I believe in Jesus Christ. There's only one way to heaven. He died and rose from the dead. And when you see them... Now, if you have a little trouble with, God being a female, it does say in the Bible, He is neither male nor female. And for part of the movie, He's a female, and part of it is God. And He'll explain it. And if you've got a problem with that, I get that. It does break a few paradigms. It's not the most whatever you believe doctrinally in that, I'm just going to say this. It's all right, okay? It was still a great movie. God's also my Father, amen? Amen. So, that's all I'm going to say about it, but I loved it. I cried through the whole thing. I did. And I'm a crier. My daughter will tell you. I cry through movies that'll break your heart. But then my son and I, we went and saw Logan the next day, so I get my man card back. So.
No, you cried 10 minutes into the shack, so I don't think you get it back.
I get it back because I saw Logan. That's all I'm saying. All right, so we're in the last message of my series. I like to preach the Word of God. It's one of the reasons why I don't get into controversy. The FBI studies the dollar bill and non-counterfeit money so that they know what it looks like, so that when they run across counterfeit money, they know it's counterfeit. They don't study all the counterfeits out there. Do you know why? Because there's going to be another one. And if they just studied all the counterfeits, somebody would come up with another counterfeit, and they go, I don't recognize that counterfeit. But if they knew the true one, they would always know the counterfeit. I like to preach the Word here. If I stay out of politics, and I stay out of controversy, and I stay out of all the little issues, there's so much that's black and white in the Bible, folks. One of my teachers taught me this. He said, if John 3:16 isn't good enough for you, I don't know what is. For God so loved the world that He gave His only begotten Son. That you know what I'm saying here? I want to preach the Word. And I want to know how to live. Paul commends Timothy. He's actually exhorting him. He's saying, Timothy, teach people how to live lives. Teach people how to be married. Teach men how to be men and women how to be women. That's why our church focuses on what it does. We're just trying to follow Scripture the best we can, one foot in front of the other. And starting this year, we began taking a look at our heart. We said, God, we want to be broken before you this year. God, we want you to change us this year. And we transitioned that right into things that He needs to change that sometimes we don't want to give up. And we have all these excuses. And all an excuse is it's an indication that we're not quite ready to change. We'll say we need to change. Oh yeah, I need to start reading my Bible more. But I've just been too busy. I need to serve in the church. I need to get involved, but it's hard to get up on Sunday mornings, especially in the daylight savings one next week. And we have these excuses. I need to lose weight. But my Choco Love almond butter filled dark chocolate candy bars are so good. That's all I'm saying. We got our excuses. And we make excuses. And from excuses, we then we have fears. We have fears. We complain. We need to stop both of those. We say, well, how do I just stop something? We talk about stopping complaining. We talk about stop living in fear. How do you just stop something? Why does an alcoholic drink? Why does an addict take drugs? Why are we codependent with one another and have control issues? Since most of us probably aren't addicted to drugs in here this morning, hopefully. Why do we have control issues? Why do we have habits that we do all the time? We just can't. I can't stop complaining. If you knew what was going around me, that person's doing this and this person's doing that. Where does complaining come from? We can't just stop activity unless we deal with our heart. That's what I like about the movie. It deals with your heart. It's down deep inside. We have issues that we haven't dealt with. Complaining comes from I'm on the throne still. And I want my world to revolve around me. Fear is this. Whatever we're afraid of, we value the most. And whatever we fear, we're trusting God in the least. Why? Because we have other things now between us and God, and other things are on the throne. We value that more than the relationship with God. Today I want to talk to you about comparing. I want us to stop comparing. What do we compare? Everything. Possessions. Did you see that car they're driving? I don't have a car like that. I want a car like that. Houses, all these possessions. Their house is a lot bigger than my house. I want a house like that. We compare possessions. We compare appearances. Oh, did you see her hair? It looked just like on the TV. I can't help it. It's not my hair. I'm just glad I got some, but some of you men wish you had some. So we're comparing. That's all I'm saying. And some have it and shave it, like Dave over there. What can you say?
I'm jealous of all those other guys that don't have it.
Oh.
They get to save a lot of time.
You see a lot of comparison. Performance, jobs. Well, what do you do for a living? What have you accomplished? What awards have you gotten? We compare performance. We compare circumstances. I wish I could get married. I wish I had a family like them. I wish we didn't have these struggles. I wish our kid didn't have that situation. I wish I had a spouse like them because they have like the perfect family. Until you move in with them. And we do all this comparison. The Bible says that comparison is not good. God does not like it when we compare ourselves with one another. What does comparison do? There's 3 things that comparison does. And 3 I'd like to share with you. 1, comparison kills contentment. These are 3 reasons why God hates it when we compare. Comparison kills contentment. It says this in 2 Corinthians 10:12. We do not dare. And I like to read it like this because if I were talking, I'd be like, don't you dare. When you're talking to your kids, I'm just saying. I can just picture Paul saying, we do not even dare to classify ourselves or compare ourselves with some who commend themselves. When they measure themselves by themselves and compare themselves with themselves, they are not wise. We do this all the time, folks. Churches do it. Christians do it. Businesses do it. I think just we do it in life all the time. And we just listed a whole bunch of them. It's not wise. In other words, it's stupid. Why do we compare ourselves with each other? Success in life isn't based on what you have or don't have. Success in life is only based on one thing. If you're being who God created you to be. Can somebody say amen to that? Because so often we live our lives wishing and trying to be somebody we're not because somebody else has what we think we want. We compare ourselves. That was 2 Corinthians 10:12. 2 Corinthians 12:10 says this, therefore I am well content with weakness, with insults, with distresses, with persecutions, with difficulties for Christ's sake. For when I am weak, then I am strong. We live most of our life trying to avoid insult, trying to avoid hard times, trying to avoid difficulties. And we live our life that way. It's like, oh, if I just have a life like them, if I could have a life like this, and if I could just do this. And here's Paul saying, I'm content no matter what. Because contentment, his contentment, wasn't found in all these things that never satisfy. His contentment was found in one place, Christ. Number 2, comparison makes us prideful. First of all, comparison kills contentment. Second of all, comparison makes us prideful. The Pharisee stood by himself and prayed, God, I thank you that I am not like other people. And you got my notes in there. Sometimes I write the verses in my notes first, and sometimes I don't, and I try to get all my notes out of there, so pardon some of the parentheses. So I'm going to make some connections here, okay? Sorry, it was a late night. But I'm sorry I'm not like these other people. Now, I don't think you guys pray these prayers. I hope not. But a lot of times we think these thoughts. He says, I pray that I'm not like these other people, robbers, evildoers, adulterers, or even like this tax collector. You know, I am so glad our church doesn't have this philosophy. I would hate it if our church had one of these philosophies, unless you're just like us, there's something wrong with you. If you've struggled with sin, oh my gosh, you're struggling with that. Oh no, you've been through this. Hello? No perfect people allowed here, please. Including the guy that messes up his own slides that's teaching here. Okay? But we do these things, you know. So my family, we were out at Ichiban. Anybody ever been to Ichiban in Jackson? You kind of sit around, it's a hibachi steak, hibachi grill. And you sit around these grills and the fire's in front of you and all this stuff, kind of stuff. My son just loves that place. So we went there yesterday for lunch, late lunch. And a baby is next to my wife, which is next to somebody else, because you sit in these groups of people, and so you're with people you don't even know, which is really cool unless there's a baby that's screaming. I would never let my kid. Until you've had one. We do these things all the time. Because I fast twice a week, I give a tenth of all I get. And he's putting all his accolades there. Comparison develops pride in our hearts. The Bible says this, God hates the proud. I find that a scary thought because I wonder how often I've been prideful. C.S. Lewis puts it this way. We say that people are proud of being rich or clever or good looking, but they're not. They are proud of being richer, cleverer, or better looking than others. If everyone else became equally rich, clever, or good looking, there would be nothing to be proud about. Interesting. Number 3, first, comparison kills contentment. 2, comparison makes us prideful. And 3, comparison makes us resentful. And in this passage, in 1 Samuel chapter 18, I'll read to you what happened when David, this young teenage boy, kills Goliath, comes off the field, and after all these wars with the Philistines, it says, when the men were returning home after David, and he had killed the Philistines, the women, this is kind of like a big game. You can see all my notes in here. This is horrible. I'm giving up all my secrets, what I normally have here, what you guys don't see up there. But it's like a big game, unlike our basketball team who lost every game this season so far, but we got a tournament, so we're going to try to practice and be good. But that's beside the point. So it's like the big game, and you just win one after another, after another, after another, and the cheerleaders are hurrahing. I mean, there's all these women that come out of the town. Oh, David's killed his 10,000s. And Saul's only killed his thousands. You hear Queen playing, "We are the champions." I'm sorry. And who's Saul? He's the king. What does he have? Everything. What can he do? Anything he wants. And he lives the rest of his life jealous of David. Makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? How often do we look at our life in the same way? If only I had that one thing. Did you know that 70% of all lottery winners lose it in 5 years, in fact go bankrupt? If only I had that one thing. And after you get it, then what? You want another thing. Besides, that one might be broke by then. So I gotta have another one. But I want it better this time. I want it better than theirs next time. What's the hard issue in comparison? We're not just dealing with a moral code here. Okay, I need to stop complaining. I need to stop living in fear. I need to stop comparing. Okay, stop it. That's not how it works. With complaining, we were on the throne. With fear, we're putting other things on the throne. With comparing, it's very similar to complaining in that we are being filled with pride, thinking we deserve something, but it also puts us in a place of judgment. I judge you. How did you get more than what I got? And we compare all the time. I'll tell you a story. I shared for the first time, I think, in this church in the first service today. And it just kind of, I was reflecting on it as I was wrapping up a couple of things this morning. But when I lived in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I had worked I graduated from college. My wife and I moved home. I'd worked for Spartan Electronics for a while, and they went through all their ups and downs and everything. So after about 9 months, I got laid off in a second round of layoffs with a bunch of people. But I was young. I could recover pretty good. And so this is in the early 90s, early 90s. And I'm old. And so then I get another job up in Ann Arbor, and I'm working in software up there for my first software job, and I studied electrical engineering technology. And so I'm working up there. Well, then we felt that God wanted us to move to Tulsa, and I wanted to finish some education. So we moved to Tulsa, and it took me a while to get a job, but I got a job at the university there, ORU, with a friend of mine, a guy I met in church. He said, "Oh, we've got an opening over here. They pay pennies. I mean, pennies. I probably could have made as much work at McDonald's, to be honest with you. I really could. But anyways, it was in software, and I wanted to stay in software, and I was going to Bible school. And my friend that got me the job there, that was his first job out of college. It was my third. And so I'd gotten used to it, and I'm an anomaly in the software industry. There's not very many of us that are extroverted. Most of them are introverted, and they have a real hard time interacting with human life. And so my buddy there, I said, because we're in this dead-end job, I'm making pennies, I said, I'll tell you what, I will help you make your resume, and I'll show you how this works. I've been through it a couple times, 20-something years old, I was an expert, you know. And so I helped him build his resume, the whole 9 yards, and I showed him how to call a recruiter and all this kind of stuff. And so there's this recruiter I was working with to get a better job, and that recruiter called me up and said, I got 2 positions open, you know somebody else? I'm like, yeah, I do actually. This he's great, he's a friend of mine, we work together, he's an amazing developer, I sold him. I actually like to sell, it's fun. Anyways, so I sold him, and so we both were going to get interviews, and we were getting, and so the recruiter's checking back with the company, and was supposed to call us back, and I remember that day I got that phone call, and he said, one of the positions closed, and they've looked at the resumes, they decided to go with your friend, and you got hired. That's pretty tough. You begin to ask questions like, well, why didn't I get it? You begin to compare. What has he got that I don't have? How come I didn't get that? Am I good enough? What's wrong with me? And you see down deep, there's heart issues that say, I lack something. And if God isn't going to meet that need, then I need to find a way to meet it myself. And we take matters into our own hands in pride and in judgment. And we wonder why our life begins to spiral out of control. We wonder why our life isn't as intimate with God as it should. We wonder why our relationships aren't like they should be. Because there's these hard issues we don't deal with. And you say, why do I compare all the time? Take a look at the heart. What really is missing? I doubt it's that thing that you're wishing you How do we stop comparing? Two things real quick. Oh, I want to say this about resentment. We resent God's goodness in other people's lives, and we ignore God's blessing in our own life. So what do? First, we need to know what we have. Paul writes this from prison. He says, I am not saying this because I am in need, for I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need. I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. He learned contentment. I learned to be content. How did he learn to be content? He learned it by realizing that he had everything in Christ. And because he had Christ, he didn't need anything else. He once said to live is Christ, but to die is gain. He looked forward to death that much. Seems kind of foreign to us sometimes. Because we so badly just, this life is all I got, and I want to make the very best of it. And if I don't have it just like this, and Paul's like, it doesn't matter. I know it really matters. Number 2, 1, know what you have. 2, know who you are. Psalm 139 says this, you have created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. Who are you? How did God make you? Can we just quote a couple things as I close this? Let's just quote. I'm going to say something, I want you to repeat it. In fact, I'm going to put them up on the board. This is how God sees you. I am loved. I put all the verses there if you want. I am accepted. The first service did better than you and they had best people. I need this loud. I am a child of God.
I am a child of God.
I am a joint heir with Christ.
I am a joint heir with Christ.
I am a saint.
I am a saint.
I am redeemed.
I am redeemed.
I am forgiven.
I am forgiven.
I am complete in Christ.
I am complete in Christ.
I am a new creation.
I am a new creation.
I am chosen of God.
I am chosen of God.
I am God's workmanship.
I am God's workmanship.
This is who you are. This is who you are. All because of Jesus. We can't take pride in it. We didn't do it. God did it. Out of his rich love for you and me, he sent Jesus Christ. And because of his grace, we have accepted him. And he has adopted us. And by his word, it says it right here, I am loved. I am accepted. I am his child. I am a joint heir. I am redeemed. I am forgiven. Listen, what can separate you from the love of God? Nothing. Nothing. So why do we feel that we need something more than him? You see how this can just take us down roads we wish we never went? Let's pray this morning. Father, we come before you this morning. And we take this time to confess our sins. The ones that we hide so easily. The ones in our heart. The ones of pride. The ones of judgment. The ones where you're not on the throne of our hearts, but someone or something else is. God, we confess idolatry. We confess it all before you in Jesus' name. We thank you for loving us, forgiving us, healing us and changing us. God, we thank you. With every head bowed and eye closed, no one looking around. If there's anybody sitting here this morning and saying, Pastor Dan, I don't know for certain if I were to die tonight, I would spend eternity in heaven. I don't know for certain I would spend the rest of my life with Jesus. If that's you, I'm not going to embarrass you or call you up. But I do want you to raise your hand. Is there anybody here that says, Pastor Dan, I need to know Jesus? You've never accepted Christ. Is there anyone here at all? Anyone at all? Father, I thank you for your church this morning and everyone here. I thank you. I pray that you would bless us and continue to